Hey, what's up guys? Will here for GSM Arena. Smartphone generations are getting shorter and shorter, and that means that sometimes the newest model coming out may not be a clear upgrade over the previous one, but just offer something different. This is the case with the new Realme 8 Pro. What's changed here compared to the Realme 7 Pro? Let's find out in our full review. The Realme 8 Pro is a phone that trades away a few of the nicer features from last year's model in exchange for a new high-res camera. It brings a bold and flashy look with a metallic gradient finish and a prominent Dare to Leap logo across the backside. The back is made from plastic with a sandblasted texture that is rather grippy but feels soft to the touch. The matte plastic frame adds a bit of grip as well. Overall, the phone is quite thin and light and great to handle in one hand. One thing missing on the Realme 8 Pro is water-resistant coating on the internals, which the Realme 7 Pro did have. It's too bad because accidents can happen. Something that hasn't changed much is the display. It's again a 6.4-inch AMOLED panel with a 1080p resolution and a regular 60Hz refresh rate. There is a small upgrade though in the touch sampling rate. Now it's 180Hz, so the screen is more responsive, something important for gaming. The Realme 8 Pro's display is pretty nice. As an AMOLED, it offers excellent contrast, and content is plenty sharp. Colors can be made quite accurate if you adjust them in the color settings. And brightness is great for this class. We measured a maximum of 450 nits with the slider, and it boosts up to nearly 630 nits in auto mode when in bright sun. Moving on to audio, and yeah, this is another downgrade from the Realme 7 Pro. Rather than a pair of stereo speakers, this time around there's a single one at the bottom. It's not very loud, scoring just average on our charts, and audio quality is just average too, with decent mids but lackluster highs. As an alternative, you can also plug in traditional headphones through the 3.5mm jack. And another popular feature you get here is expandable storage, on top of the 128 gigs built in. Waking up and unlocking the Realme 8 Pro can be done with an under-display fingerprint scanner. It's incredibly fast and accurate. The interface of the Realme 8 Pro is Realme UI 2.0 on top of Android 11. It has a few notable features and is quite customizable. If you don't like the shapes of the icons, the font, or the system colors, you can change them all within the settings. There's a lot of variety even within the dark mode. You have a choice between 3 different styles, the traditional black, as well as dark gray and light gray. Like the recent Galaxy phones, there is a smart sidebar which can hold customizable shortcuts for you. And a special feature here is the ability to minimize an app to a mini window or a floating window, straight from the task switcher. At the heart of the Realme 8 Pro is a Snapdragon 720G chipset. It's the same that you'd find in last year's model, as well as the newly popular Samsung Galaxy A52. And as you'd expect, performance here is about on par with these devices. It isn't too bad, it can handle games pretty well, and the user interface flows smoothly without any lag. However, it's worth keeping in mind that in this sort of flagship killer price range, the charts are full of competitors with more power under the hood. The Realme 8 Pro has a decent-sized 4500 mAh battery, the same capacity as the Realme 7 Pro. And as you'd expect from a phone with such similar specs, the battery life is basically the same too. The 8 Pro scored a very good endurance rating of 116 hours in our proprietary tests, versus 113 on the 7 Pro. However, charging has been downgraded just a bit here. You have support for 50-watt charging, versus 65 last year, but you get a 65-watt adapter in the box. What? Still, that's not to say it isn't incredibly fast here. We were able to charge the Realme 8 Pro from a dead battery to 88% in half an hour. Now on to the cameras, which are the major upgrade you'll get here over last year's model. The main cam has a large 108MP nonacell sensor versus the 64MP quad-bayer one on the Realme 7 Pro. The rest of the setup is the same though, an 8MP ultra-wide camera, a 2MP macro cam, and a depth sensor. Photos from the main camera come out at 12MP by default, and these are good. They are detailed enough with excellent contrast, lively colors, low noise, and impressive dynamic range. We wouldn't call this flagship worthy though. If you zoom in, you'll see that fine details and textures, like foliage, have a sort of smeared oil painting look, perhaps due to the noise processing. Don't get us wrong, for a mid-range phone these photos are great, but we were just expecting more from this flagship grade sensor. One trick this large sensor allows you to do is crop to produce lossless 3x zoomed photos. These are pretty awesome. They're rich in detail with well-handled noise, superb contrast, punchy colors, and great dynamic range. These photos are hard to distinguish from those taken with a real 3x telephoto. You can also achieve a 5x digital zoom, which involves a bit of an upscale, but still looks really good. Portraits taken with the main camera and the depth sensor are impressive. The subjects are sharp and detailed, with proficient separation from the defocused backgrounds. Moving on to the 8-megapixel photos from the ultra-wide cam, these are average looking with mediocre resolve detail, okay contrast, and dynamic range which leaves more to be desired. This is about par for the course for this price range. Shooting close-ups with a macro camera is pretty difficult because its focus is fixed. But even if you get the distance right, these are still soft and noisy, with dull colors. At night, the main camera takes very balanced and true-to-life photos, with gentle noise reduction, plenty of detail, lifelike colors, and good contrast. You may observe some clipped highlights though. With night mode on, each shot takes from 5 to 10 seconds to process, maybe due to a combination of the high-resolution sensor and mid-range chipset. These are brighter and the noise is eliminated, but they're also softer and the problematic highlights are still visible. The better solution is AI mode. If you switch this on at night, the phone produces an HDR photo with the same detail and noise levels as auto mode, but gives you a brighter look with restored highlights, and these don't take any extra time to process. Lossless zoom doesn't work at night, you just end up with a standard 3x digital zoom which doesn't look good. Low-light photos taken with the ultra-wide cam are noisy, soft, and dark. AI mode doesn't help a lot, just giving a brighter exposure. But the night mode does make a difference here. You get a cleaner, brighter image with more detail and restored highlights. Now on to selfies, which are taken with the 16-megapixel front-facing cam, lower res than the 32-megapixel sensor of last year. The colors, contrast, and dynamic range are great, even if the detail level is just average. The quality is decent here. Videos can be captured with the main cam in up to 4K resolution at 30 FPS. The quality here is stellar, with rich detail, low noise, accurate colors, and great dynamic range. Our only complaint is that there's no stabilization available in 4K. The ultra-wide shoots in 1080p, and these are just alright. There isn't a lot of resolve detail, but the contrast and dynamic range are good. So that's the Realme 8 Pro. Overall, it's a pretty decent package for a mid-ranger with an easy-to-handle body, a nice AMOLED display, great battery life and super fast charging, and excellent photos and videos from the main cam, at least during the day. The problem is, well, there are actually two problems here. First is that someone coming from last year's model will not only get the same features, but actually miss out on quite a few, and I'm not sure if the trade-off for a better camera is worth it for everyone. And the second issue is the pricing. You can find flagship killers from Poco for around the same amount of money, and even if you're just after the high-res camera, you can get that together with other upgrades in the Redmi Note 10 Pro. So unless you can find the Realme 8 Pro at a discount, it's tough to recommend. Thanks for watching guys, stay safe and see you on the next one.